last year on Tuesdays. It was good for us.
All right, guys, we're ready. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Basketball with head coach Bob Ritchie. Paladins getting ready for the first of two games this week, tomorrow on the road at VMI, and then returning here for what promises to be a huge matchup on Saturday against Western Carolina at Timmons Arena. We will, as always, open up with Coach Ritchie making a statement, and then I'll let Monty Dutton ask the first question. Bob?
Well, appreciate you being here today, and feels a lot better than the last time we were all together for sure. And I've put two good games back together, and obviously at home, both of them, but played much better, and really looked more like ourselves. You know, looked like we had a good rhythm to us, and the ball movement has improved drastically, which has been great to see. The dependence on one another has really picked up, and you know, it's one of those situations where, obviously, like we discussed, you know, you've got the injuries that you can't control, but as we start to get people back, it's also twofold. It's understanding that we got to play to the identity of what's always worked here, and the sum's got to be greater than its equal parts, and we've got to make sure that we always understand that our identity is what's been our strength, and it's always started with being great teammates, flying around on defense, creating transition opportunities, and then making sure we move the ball. And I think you've seen that here lately, and you know, now it's our job to continue to improve there, not feel like we've arrived, but continue to be hungry to get better. But you know, more smiles out there. You can see the guys have relaxed a little bit. They're out there playing, and we're hoping that, you know, Marcus has practiced the last 2 days and he's ready to play some tomorrow night. I know he's excited about that, and so you know, I would say we are full strength. We've had two in the infirmary this morning with the flu. So some of that just we haven't been able to chase all of that out yet, but that's stuff you can't really control. And but we're in a lot better spot than we were, and looking forward to playing tomorrow night.
There are three schools of thought, none of them your thoughts, over Marcus Foster. I've heard people speculate that he'll sit out against VMI to be ready for the big games, or that he might play a while to see how he is, or that he might play again against VMI. What are your thoughts?
He's playing tomorrow. Yeah, he's playing tomorrow. This is he completed his third practice, so he practiced the day before ETSU. He was on scout team and did well there. Went through a full Monday practice yesterday, you know, outside the last probably 20, 25 minutes just to, you know, that's a little bit more of an up and down practice. So got up and down, and then he went this morning. So he's really built confidence in it, and to be honest with you, looks really good out there. And so you got another shooting threat, and you know, we need it. We felt like Saturday we got a little gas there late. You know, needed one more perimeter out there. Played some guys 34, 35 minutes, which is a little too much for how we play and the tempo we play at. So, you know, that's going to make rotations a lot easier. And to be honest with you, just to have the caliber player that he is back, you know, that's just a jolt in and of itself. So we're excited to see him out there tomorrow night.
Coach, I know you're getting Marcus Foster back, but kind of breaking news with the same starting lineup, 2 consecutive games. I know you've been the 13, and we've talked about that a lot, but is that one of the keys, and the fact that you can maybe get the same guys out there and the rotation changes a little bit or not?
Well, I think, you know, the starting lineup adjustments have been clearly beneficial, and it's not so much who's playing and who's not playing. It's more so just how the group has functioned as a whole and the amount of space that we've been able to play with, really by moving Alex to the 4. And, you know, that's really opened up the floor and playing double point guard much more than we were, you know, when you're rotating JP, PJ, Carter, you know, and those guys, and then you got A. Will at the perimeter, and then, you know, back when Marcus was playing, Marcus as well. Some of those guys don't play as much, you know, but now when you've opened that up and you've put Marcus, or you've put A. Will to the 4, well, now you've got more minutes at the point guard spot and the 2 guard spot and the 3 guard spot to be able to play double point guard. And, you know, it's really been huge for us. And so, you know, the lineup, if Marcus is available, which he's going to be, we're going to start him. I mean, I've never been a believer in, you know, I mean, if the trainer says Marcus Foster can play, Marcus Foster going to play. And he's going to start, and he's going to be out there. And, I think what it does is the other four positions will stay the same. We'll keep starting double point guard, Marcus at the 3, A. Will at the 4, Tyrese at the 5. But Ben Vanderwall has been a huge piece for us in these 2 games, and he's going to play a ton tomorrow night. And his value to this team, he played 35 minutes on Saturday and made some incredible plays, rebounded at, I think, a 14% clip, which is amazing. Anything 10 or above is outstanding on the offensive end, and for him to go 14% against a team that athletic and big just says where his mind is and how focused his mind is. P.J. Smith had a great practice yesterday. Garrett Haynes played well 2 games in a row. So I think it's one of those situations where we're just looking to get full strength and full depth and really have all of our guys, with a starter mentality and understanding that, hey, we're going to play 8 or 9, and those 8 or 9 got to be ready to roll. And the minutes are going to be pretty balanced at certain spots, and we need all of them.
The opponent tomorrow night, VMI, if you look at their schedule, their record is kind of deceiving. They've played some pretty good games. I know they played South Carolina well for a while, and then last time out, that was just a really peculiar game. But they actually shot the ball really well. Could you just talk about the opponent and the challenges that they present tomorrow night?
Yeah, VMI, post-Christmas and getting into league play, they've really increased their tempo in terms of how fast they're playing. The Sanford VMI game was a 95-possession game, which is, that's NASCAR. That's moving. At the tempo we play at, if we get in the 70s, that's pretty good. Put it in perspective, ETSU Saturday was 67. Okay, so, you talk about 94, 95 possessions, you're getting up there. And some of that was because Sanford was choosing to press, which that's what they do, and then VMI was choosing to run. And so the biggest thing that they're really doing is they're really trying to play at a faster pace. And so our transition defense is going to be tested. And, they've got some guys, Watkins can really, really shoot it from the edges. He's got a tremendous jump shot on him. Cook can really, really get downhill, really good player there. Jackson was a guy you'll remember from last year, athletic, but also is shooting the ball better from the perimeter. And, they've got good players, and they got some guys that can, get into space and get downhill, and that's what they're really trying to do. So, the key is going to be for us, we've got to get back. We feel like, we've played better, and definitely these past 2 games, that's an area where we feel like we need to continue to make progress. And, in this league, your transition defense with the amount of threes that get taken early clock, it's got to be tremendous. So they're really going to test us there.
Bob, just curious your take on the maturation and the continued improvement we're seeing out of Carter Whitt. When we had him on the radio post-game after the Citadel game, we were kind of joking with him that he seems to be at his best when he's playing right on that edge of almost being out of control, pushing tempo for you, but able to maintain control, kind of walking that line a little bit. But the last few games, he has been a big part of what you've been doing.
No reason to buy a Lamborghini if you're not going to go fast, right? It's a little bit like, you slow him down, and it's not quite, the max of what you're going to be able to get with him. I think where he's really grown is that Lamborghini's no good if it has no brakes, and so we want him to play fast. We want him to play with brakes. And I think that's where he's gotten better is to be able to stop and get in the paint and to play on 2 feet. And, players, when they get to this level, they haven't necessarily had to do that in their career. And they can launch and see things. They're not dealing with the amount of length and the defenses to where all of a sudden those passes being thrown over the top, you're getting deflected and they're turning them over. Now they're running on you. You got to play underplays a little bit at this level. And, I think he can still continue to get better there. I think, him, you think about Mike Bothwell and how he played off that back down dribble, where he got cut off and he's driving, he flips his hips, and he basically turns into a post player that's a passing point and a scoring point. I think Carter can continue to utilize that and really to his strength. He's in transition, though, he's elite. It's just fun to watch. And, he started the game Saturday, 3 assists. Bang, 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 dime, dime, dime. And the play made in the second half to Tyrese, coming off the pick and roll and throwing that ball behind his head. That's the creativity that he can play with. I think his confidence is growing. And I think it's come from his work ethic. Has been tremendous. His commitment to trying to play how we want him to play has really grown. And you just, when you're around him, you just sense a swagger that he's growing into. That, you know, really it just puts you in a situation when both those guys are out there playing full speed. You got Pegues and you got Whitt. And you don't know which one's going to attack you, but you know they both can, they both will. I think that's when he's at his best. And you know, the last 2 games, Dan, he's really played to his strengths. I think you know, this program has shot a lot of threes in my time here. And I think it's a great thing, but I think what it does is it also, what I've realized a little bit more this year than any year, it creates this idea within our program that, hey, I need to be able to make shots if I'm going to play. And there's an element of truth to that we need enough shot makers out there, but it also doesn't need to be something that creates a burden that, hey, I want this to be first and foremost when, hey, maybe my strengths are something else. And, you know, that's where, you know, last Tuesday in practice with Carter, with Ben, with Garrett, you know, really just trying to take that pressure away from them. You know, don't worry about it. Like, you don't have to shoot those threes. You know, if you get one late clock or if you get one wide open, you got 10 toes on the 3-point line and you're not in the NBA range and it's a great shot, then yeah, I mean, but don't let your game start there, right? You know, and everybody's wondering about our shooting, but JP, PJ, A. Will, Tyrese were all shooting 34% plus, right? But we were taking a lot of shots from other guys, which drive down your confidence, which drive down your numbers, and then also it puts the game in transition. Carter, just go out there and be a playmaker. You know, just drive that ball, play on 2 feet, get the tempo up, find guys. And, you know, I think it's, 15 assists the last 2 games, but also multiple baskets thrown to where there was a foul, you know, which obviously don't count those as assists, but the amount of offense he's creating for others right now is fun to watch.
I, of course, know rationally that being superstitious is ridiculous. But I sort of do it just in case. And I know that your win Saturday had nothing to do with the old orange shirt that I was wearing. But I think it's sort of something like gambling or doing crosswords that you know. So what I'm saying is, are you superstitious?
I'm routine-oriented. Not really superstitious, but I'm definitely routine-oriented. And, you know, I told our team on Wednesday night before the Citadel game I wanted them to relax and go play. And, you know, let me handle the pressure of all of it. You know, let me deal with all that. You guys go out there and be free. And I said, you know, I'm gonna dress a little bit more relaxed. And, you know, I decided to take the blazer off and, you know, put a overtop on, and we went out there, and I thought we played more relaxed. Probably had nothing to do with it, but it's symbolic. And sometimes when you're trying to convince 18 to 22-year-olds of something, symbolism can be good. And so we did the same thing, and on Saturday, and we'll do the same thing tomorrow. So, you know, it's I think a lot of times, you know, my first boss, Barkley Rated Ball, was up here yesterday for the day, and we're just talking about, you know, coaching these players in today's time. A lot of times, you know, not about superstition, but about routine. If they kind of know what's coming, I feel like they operate better, you know, and hey, this is what the rotation is going to be. This is what Monday practice is going to look like. This is what Tuesday practice, this is what day before looks like. This is what day of game is going to look like. And, you know, we try to do a pretty good job of changing stimulus when we need to, which I'm definitely not afraid to do, but also, you know, finding a good routine and a good rhythm when we can.
Coach, I know over the course of the years you've been here, the great success, and, you know, at this point you lost the first 2, you come back and won the next 2. Have you changed at all as a coach, having not really gone through that too much since you've been here, the 2 losses to begin and then the 2 that with momentum going into VMI?
Well, I mean, not that any game on the road, you know, you never know what's going to happen. And, you know, we're going to have to be ready to go play really, really well tomorrow night. But in the event, you know, that we can get that win and to string three together, you know, I think for us it's about getting healthy, you know, making sure we're getting our identity back and continuing to show progress as the season goes on, that we can be our best when our best is required. And, you know, look, in terms of the standings and the race and all that, we got 14 games left. You know, like there's a lot of ball left to be played. And, you know, I can't sit here and tell you how this is going to go down or how that's going to go down. But I will tell you this. If we win tomorrow night, we'll have the same record as we did after 5 games last year, 3-2. And I think we forget that a little bit. You know, We lost at Cullowhee, and then the 5th game of conference play, we lost to Greensboro here in an overtime game. And, we had to figure some things out then. And so, I think it's one of those situations where it's all about how you're going to look at it. You're going to look at this as, hey, we lose the first 2. One of them we have 52 points sitting on the bench. The other one we get 2 guys back that hadn't practiced, that obviously combined, I think went 1 for 19 for 3, and for a team we were 4 for 33. And if you're going to look at those 2 games and say, hey, we're just going to shut this thing down and, we'll just concede it all, well, that's not really what sports are about, and we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep growing. We feel like we've made a lot of progress in the last, 9 days. And I don't think that it's a deal where anybody internally is looking at it like, hey, we've reached our peak. Like, we're here. We've had 20 points a game still in a sweatsuit. And so he gets back tomorrow, and I don't want too much pressure on him. He's going to have to – he ain't played since December 2nd. So it's going to take him a little bit of time to work back in. But at the same time, I don't think any coach, when they don't have a guy that can put 20 on the board for a month and a half and they find out they're going to get him back, I would imagine all coaches are going to say, hey, yeah, we're going to have some improvement from that. Just another shooter, another spacer, another guy that knows how we play, another guy that's won a championship in this league and has been a part of a lot of winning. And so we're just trying to go 1-0. That's where we had to shift to last year. Can we go 1-0 tomorrow night? And then do everything we can. It's going to take everything we have to go up there and beat VMI, and leave all the predictions and all that for everybody else. Let's just 1-0, get back, get better. Got 2 days, go play another one, and just take them one at a time. And I think if we do that, we're going to be just where we want to be when we need to be there. And I think this team, the spirit, the energy. I think if you watch us play these last 2 games, you can tell a difference. And they're playing more connected. They look like they're having more fun. They look like they're enjoying each other more. They look like the game's coming a little bit easier with the ball movement and the spacing. And I'm just enjoying seeing them respond and really, to see how some have grown up in the midst of this. And I think, JP, continuing to push his leadership and really, making a mandatory treatment session on Sunday. I've never had that happen in 7 years. Trainer hits me and said, hey, he made all the rotation guys come up here. And 2 of them weren't here, and he went and got them. He went and got them himself. And to see Marcus and JP for 8 o'clock practice this morning in the gym, at 6:30 this morning, from your 2 best players, right? Like, that's leadership. And to see Davis Molnar, that hadn't gotten to play as much the last couple of games, not to his own fault, not to his talent, just because of how we decided to go with the rotation, to see him make 300 threes on Sunday, and to see him back in the gym yesterday, to see him back in the gym this morning. Those are the things that you keep focusing on the work, right? You keep focusing on getting better, and you keep taking games one at a time. And, at the end of the day, we've got to focus on that, and I think our group's doing a lot better job of doing that.
In your time as a head coach, what have you learned about going from – there's a noticeable uptick when you get into conference play. And have you made any alterations from maybe your first season going on the conference to a road game to maybe now? How do you prepare your team for a conference road game?
Yeah, I think you always evolve as a coach. I think winning on the road is hard, especially when you have a balanced league that's really good and you got a lot of good coaches, a lot of good identities. Man, I'll be honest with you, John. I didn't have a choice but to figure it out early. I got to go play Mike Young on the road, and I got to go play Steve Forbes, and I got to go play Wes Miller. Like, I had to figure it out pretty quick. And so this league with the coaches, the quality of the coaches that we had early. I'm 34, head job, and you got to go against guys that are all basically Power 5 coaches, 3 of them now. You had to really you got tested, and you had to figure out what's our routine, what's the best way for us to go win on the road. And we obviously shoot the ball, and you're not always going to shoot it quite as well on the road, and but we had to really trust our ball movement, our spacing, and our defense, and the ability to have mental toughness on the road in a different environment. And I think historically, we've been pretty good on the road in this league, and I think it was a big part of our championship last year to be able to go into some of the, the top spots and get wins on the road was critical. And you're not going to win a championship in this league if you can't go win it. You don't have to win them all necessarily, but you got to win enough. And as they say, defense travels, rebounding travels. To me, I think connection, chemistry, camaraderie travels. And you got to go and you got to know there's going to be a fight and you got to prepare for it. And you got to do everything you got to go 1-0.
Bob, you mentioned Garrett and how well he's played the last couple of games. It's one of our favorite guys to talk to. He just has such a great personality. I get the sense that maybe he's also a little hard on himself, and he has been up and down through the early part of this season. Using him as an example, when you have someone who may be struggling with their confidence, how do you go about restoring that confidence? Because as you mentioned, he's playing a lot better now.
Yeah, confidence is a funny thing. I mean, I think coaches all have different philosophies on it. I think that, in my opinion, confidence is earned and it's not given. That you've got to earn it. You've got to, a coaching friend in the business recently made a comment to me that I thought was pretty good. It's pretty simple. We were talking about shooting, and they had been through a shooting slump earlier in the year, and we were going through one. And he told me, he said, one of the mantras in our program is you have to earn the right to miss. And, what does that mean? Well, are you making 300 shots a day? Are you in the gym? And if you are, then, hey, you earn the right to miss. Like, nobody's going to be mad at you if you're putting in the work. And, I think sometimes confidence to me is it's got to be earned. The work's critical. And sometimes I can see players, they think, well, I put in the work, so my confidence should change. You still have to go have demonstrated ability to see it and kind of have that internal confirmation that, hey, you know what? Okay, yeah, the ball is going in. And I think Garrett had a little bit of that on Saturday. He saw those 2 threes go in, made those 2 post moves, gave us a good little offensive spark. And, he's after practice today, he's shooting threes, and I was sitting there watching him for a few minutes, and it didn't feel like he was missing. And then at some point, right, you just got to go trust it. You got to go trust that work, and you got to say, hey, I'm out of the training phase. Now I get to go play. And part of confidence is, hey, I trust the work that I've put in, that I can go relax in terms of the mental part, not the physical part, but the mental part. I can relax that mental mechanism that, hey, what if I don't have a good shooting night, or what if I miss a few, or, hey, listen, this game is it's a little bit like baseball. You're a big baseball fan, obviously, but we told our team you would like this. We told our team, hey, look, at the end of the day, you are what the baseball card says you are. That's what the percentage is. It's not what you are these last 4 games or these last 6 games. You are what the baseball card says you are. And this is a funny game. You can miss 6 and make 4, and you're an unbelievable shooter. But you have to have the mentality and the freedom that allows you to miss those 6, to whereas you're missing those 6, you don't let your confidence go down to a point now you miss a 7th, and now you're 30%, right? And it's that difference between going 3 for 10 and 4 for 10. And to me, Garrett's a 40% three-point shooter. I've seen it. I see it in practice. I see his release, right? You watch him shoot the ball. But it's a little bit like Slauson, convincing them to be in the gym every single day, early in Slauson's career, and he really picked it up, his last few years, and then understanding, hey, earn the right to miss on a daily basis, and then the game usually becomes a little bit easier for you.
When people look back, one of the unsung heroes of the last 2 seasons, who will be lost in the trails of history, was Conley Garrison 2 years ago. I wonder how you compare and contrast Conley's effect to Carter Whitt's effect now. They're obviously very different players, but they both brought a lot of movement and excitement to the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Conley was a great player here. I wish we'd had him more than 1 year, for sure. Conley was just a ball player. I mean, he just, obviously he could make shots, but, you remember ETSU, he started driving to the basket and hanging in the air, and, he's getting loose balls, and he's just out there just playing every bit of effort he had, whatever it took to win, and always willing to make winning plays. And, I think there's definitely, he led us in deflections on Saturday, 9 deflections. And I was kidding with him after the game, he might have gone a month last year without 9 deflections, but that's where his growth's been, that all of a sudden he was defensive player of the game, and that's an objective stat through different stats that we measured during the game. Carter Whitt was defensive player of the game. And look, he can do that. He's got a knack for rebounding. He's got a knack for being able to anticipate, that last steal of the game. He was sitting in his gap, and the guy spun basically right into him. The ball just fell in his lap because he was in the right position. And he's got moxie. He's got feel, and he's got anticipation. And I think as he's gotten more comfortable and confident, you're starting to see some of that come out on the defensive end. And, that's only going to elevate his game for sure. But, it's you got to have guys, for guys like Conley, at the end of the day, like, the more guys you can have that are just obsessed with winning out there, you're probably going to win a few more games. And, it sounds so cliche, but, it's hard to be really committed to two things at once. Like, hey, I want to go score all these points and I want to win. Like, that doesn't work. Like to be obsessed with winning, it's a very singular objective, right? Like, the only thing on my mind is, what do I have to do to win this game? Therefore, I've got to do anything I can to win this possession. And my whole entire focus is on that. And I think, everybody says they love to win, right? But some players love to produce more, right? Some players love to score more. But can you get a group that's infatuated with winning? And we've looked much more of like that the past couple games. And it's why you can play somebody like Ben Vanderwall at 34, 35 minutes, not necessarily score a ton, but have a huge impact on the winning of the game. Because at the end of the day, those tip outs, those rebounds, those cuts, those deflections, all that stuff adds up in the course of a game.
Coach, you mentioned statistics a moment ago, and how important are analytics to you and your program, and what are some of the things that you look at?
Analytics have crept into our game at a pretty high level, and I think it's one of those situations where I've always said this, like, the business world always leads the sports world, and I think what we're seeing in sport right now is all the data is great, and you can have more data than you can possibly process. I think the magic in the analytics, can you pare the data down to actually impact decision making? And are you measuring something that's a leading measure, or are you measuring something that's a lagging measure? And I think right now in our analytics of basketball, there are a lot of lagging measures that we're fixated on. Turnover percentage, okay? Well, that's lagging of showing me how many times do we turn the ball over, okay? Well, that's great that you can tell me that we had a 20% turnover rate. I really want to find an analytic that can measure, like, what's leading to that 20% turnover rate. What is something that we can measure that will keep that turnover rate down, right? And so for us, I think if you get too infatuated with analytics, you can get blinded, because now you're losing. I think when you look at the ranking of, hey, what's important here, I think eyes are very important. I think that's the most important, will always be. I don't think AI is gonna come into coaching anytime soon. It might come into play calling, but I think that figuring out, Steve Spurrier, right? Like, the most important thing a coach decides is who's playing. And I think the ability to let your eyes show you, okay, like, why did we start Ben Vanderwall 2 games ago? Was there anything analytically that said this is what we need to do? No. 10% three-point shooter at the time, right? Analytically, it would not have told us that's what we needed to do, right? But when you're watching the ball movement and you're watching that, hey, we got a couple guys out here that can really score, but we need some guys that can really play on 2 feet and that can cut and that can run. We need somebody to come do the little things, and this is going to make this thing work a little bit better. Well, then you insert him in that role, and then all of a sudden the last 2 games, what's everybody saying? Well, Ben's back. Well, that had nothing to do with analytics, okay? So the eyes are still going to be the leader. I think the ears are also important, right? Like, what are you hearing, especially in recruiting, right, when you're trying to evaluate players. And then third is going to be the data and the analytics. And I think it's important that you go in that order, because, I think there's been some decisions that I know I've made. I made one key one last year that the analytics did not suggest. And I just made another one last week that the analytics did not suggest. But at the end of the day, my job in the game of basketball is to figure out how can 5 guys play well. And analytics measure all these players in silos. It's like, hey, these are all this guy's numbers, and hey, these are all this guy's numbers, and these are this guy's numbers, right? Like the whole plus and minus thing. You're getting 100% of the credit for 20% of the equation. I mean, there's 4 guys out there playing with you, but you're getting a plus whatever, okay? Well, what if you just ran up and down the court 8 times and 4 other players made all the shots and got all the stops? Well, he was a plus whatever. Well, okay, we've got to be able to dig underneath that and really see, like, hey, what are we seeing here? And I think the Astros. I think there's a book written by the Astros that I read probably before COVID. That what their label was man plus machine, and I think we really try to live in that balance of being able to evaluate, coach. What's the film say? What's the film say? Are we playing to identity? And then now, okay, can we use the numbers to now guide us in a few directions that sometimes can correlate and sometimes they don't. But we track a lot of different things in game. I know you'll probably see that card behind me at timeouts. A lot of times there'll be some game-to-game things there, based on the game plan. Sometimes there's going to be, just something that's there every game. Okay, for instance, pass count. Everybody's saying, well, man, you guys look better offensively the last couple games. We've been north of 300 on the pass count both games for the first time all year, right? So the paradox of getting players to understand that the more it moves, the more we score it, right? That the more you dribble it and you go out there and you try to play iso ball and you try like that's not worked for us. Okay, 26 bad shots at Chattanooga didn't work for us. Okay, we come out Citadel, right? All of a sudden we get 326 passes and we have 5 double-figure scores and one guy with 8, right? And the more it moves, the more you're going to be able to see breakdowns of defense. The more the ball is going to get side to side. The easier it's going to be able to play out a closeout. But you got to get a group to really buy into that. That hey, we've got to work together to go create easier shots. There was a beautiful play in the game on Saturday in transition, where Alex Williams had the ball pushing in transition. And I think 3 weeks ago he'd have dribbled right into a 3 and jacked it. And instead he kicked it to Ben Vanderwall. And Ben Vanderwall decided to play to his strengths, and he drove the ball baseline. Alex's defender runs in there to cut him off. He stops and throws back to Alex on a catch 10-toe 3, and Alex nails it. Well, that's passing up good shot to get a great shot. And I think understanding that, right? I think it was a Citadel game before that. We're in transition second half. We're making that run. We pitch ahead to JP. He could have easily shot that, right? He could have tried to attack the rim. Instead, he punch dribbles, throws it to Alex Williams in the corner. The ref's running by me, and as the ref's running by me, I said, those always go in. And sure enough, bang, right? Crowd goes crazy. And getting people to understand that, hey, look, those 2 shots right there, like those are really easy shots. But it took multiple players to create that shot. And I think sometimes in the game right now, players are obsessed with these individual workouts and people around them telling them that, hey, you can go get yours. Like you can go do that. But then you take away the power of like, hey, what if we all work together? Am I going to get an easier shot than trying to go force something? And then now do you have more synergy in the game? Do you have more energy to get back in transition defense? Do you feel a greater connection with one another? And, we've never necessarily had to preach shot selection as much as we've had with this team in my 7 years. But the good news is they're starting to buy into it. And, they're doing it at a time where 82 the last 2 games. But the pass counts have been north of 300. Can we stay with that? And I think that's going to be a key for this group.
Bob, you're talking about AI taking over things. I'm glad you didn't mention broadcasting, so we'd still like to have a job. I think everybody here has given you all the questions they have, so I'll just ask you to wrap it up with a final thought, and we'll say goodbye.
Well, I mean, just to reiterate, just really proud of our group. And, they didn't have to respond in the fashion that they have. And, they had what felt like a month of bad news, just from, heartbreaker at Princeton to Marcus's injury at Princeton to heartbreaker at Tulane to injury JP, injury Alex Williams, coming out of the post-Christmas, not playing great, not making shots. It just felt like it was all kind of snowballing. And, I give our group, our program, our team, our staff a lot of credit for just continuing to try to figure out ways to solve it and really trying to figure out ways to fix it. And I don't think we're done. I don't think we're a finished product. But I tell you this, we're a whole lot further along than we were 8-9 days ago. And, I think that's a credit to that locker room. I think that's a credit to the players in that locker room of saying, hey, we've got to stay the course and we got to figure out, we've got to find a solution to what we have to do to play better. And they're having more fun. Practices are more entertaining. The body language is better. Their exchanges are better. Their spirit's better. And, it's what sport teach you. And I've told my kids are getting to the age where they're playing in sport, and it's fine when you're playing church league and everybody gets to play, and then all of a sudden you get into middle school and you got one playing club volleyball and you got one playing on the middle school team, and all of a sudden, like, hey, minutes aren't equal. You know, it's not what it was when it was all cute and everybody got to play a little bit. And you have to be able to teach your children, right, that the greatest thing that sport can teach you is it's not about you. And I've had to do that with my own kids. You know, I've had to walk that with both of them as they go through this of, like, it's not always going to be exactly what you want, but can you put yourself in a program that you have to understand that, hey, we got to do what's best for the most. And that's really hard to do. But that's where the best life lesson that we can teach them sometimes is just that. And, you know, I'm proud of our group for how they've responded to that. We've had a lot of guys that have had to sacrifice. We've had guys that have had to change positions. We put Tyrese to the 5. We put A. Will to the 4. We put Garrett coming off the bench. We have PJ coming off the bench. We reduced the minutes of Davis. Like, there were sacrifices all over the place. But everybody's spirit has grown. And everybody is having a much more enjoyable time. And we feel like we're back to at least saying, hey, listen, we're going to get this figured out. And the way we're going to do it is the way we've always done it. And, you know, I'm just really pleased with how they've handled that. And Alex Williams' growth, Carter Whitt's growth, JP's growth in his leadership, you know, you can go down the line. And, you know, looking forward to continuing to coach this group and, you know, continue to make progress in the days ahead.
All right, Coach, thank you. Just a reminder that tomorrow night's game is 6 p.m. start at VMI in Lexington, Virginia. We will have the radio pregame beginning at 5:30 on the Fan Upstate and through Odyssey app and Odyssey.com. And then back here on Saturday for the matchup with Western Carolina, 2 p.m. start, ESPN Plus broadcast as well as radio beginning at 1:30. Tickets are available. FurmanPaladins.com. There are a few tickets available, I'm told, so get those now. For Coach Bob Ritchie and all of us at Furman, thank you for watching. I'm Dan Scott. God bless you. So long, everybody.